Hi everyone, Jamie Humphries here for Six String Alliance, and today we are taking a look at the brand new Wampler Germanium Tumnus Overdrive pedal. Now, the Tumnus, the original Tumnus, is probably one of the most popular and best sounding pedals in the Wampler range. I did a video on that very, very long time ago. There's been a couple of different versions. There's the original Tumnus, which looks pretty much the same as this, but with the gold finish, but the same layout. Plus, then we have the Tumnus Deluxe as well. I also did a video on that. I wasn't quite as keen on the Tumnus Deluxe. I thought it took away from the simplicity of the original Tumnus pedal, which is, it just kind of did what it was meant to do. It's a great sounding pedal. It's a great sort of low to mid gain overdrive pedal. And it's very close in terms of its a replication of the original Klon pedal. Now, why have we got a new version of this pedal? Well, this is a very limited edition pedal and it's already proven to be incredibly popular. Basically, the original Klon pedal had a circuit which was meant to be unobtainable, and it was, I think that was pretty much why the pedals are incredibly expensive. And what Brian originally did was he did a version of the circuit using silicone clipping diodes. Now, he's managed to source some germanium diodes, which are pretty much like the ones used in the Klon. I'm not too much of a cork sniffer, so please forgive me if my kind of description of this isn't quite up to the technical par that some other YouTubers might possess. But basically, he's able to reproduce that circuit using germanium clipping diodes. Now, there's been a lot of people requesting this for quite a long time. Equipment that I'm using today, I'm using my 3 single coil, or should I say my hot rail and 2 single coil Axis Super Sport. And I'm using the Mesa Boogie California Tweed. And I'm using the Mesa Cab Clone IR with the California Tweed impulse response. Before we get into some isolated tones, let's just talk a little bit about the track you heard at the beginning of this demo. I was thinking about what track to play. Should I put something together? And then I decided to resurrect one of my old tunes. I put an album out, God, must be, when did I put that out? It was about 2009, but I actually started working on it in the late 90s. And it was very much in a period of my playing where I was very inspired by sort of rock fusion, especially the sort of Richie Kotzen Intergalactic Fusion Experience and the 2 albums that he did with Greg Howe, as well as that really early Richie Kotzen album, Electric Joy. So it definitely has that sort of vibe to it. I decided to go back onto my old hard drives and resurrect the original drum parts and the original bass parts. The drums were performed by Pete Riley. Probably a lot of you have actually heard Pete Riley, as he was the drummer on the Erotic Cakes album. Basically, back then, we were all sort of playing together. We had a little bit of a sort of mafia going on. And Pete was playing on my stuff. He was playing on Guthrie stuff. And he was also playing on Dave Kilminster stuff. Dave Kilminster is obviously the current and long-term guitar player with Roger Waters. Also on the album is my good friend Jason Campbell, who we affectionately named Clunk. And he was playing bass. We did a bunch of tunes together. I did some instrumental tunes. He did some vocal tunes. And we put an album out. It was all a little bit weird. It was a bit schizophrenic, but we had some guests on it. Richie Kotzen played on it. My old guitar teacher, Phil Hillwarn, played on it. So anyway, I decided to dig that track out and replay the guitar parts, because there was a lot of different tones ranging from sort of mild pushed tones all the way up to some quite high gain tones. Plus there was some tones there using the EBow that had lots of effects on. So I thought it was a good excuse to see how the pedal sounded within the mix as a kind of straightforward guitar tone, and also for some of the more sort of elaborate sound design tones. But the track was a little bit of an epic. Once I got into it, I suddenly realized how many tones there were. And yeah, it was quite an undertaking to film that and mix it and edit it. So hopefully you enjoyed it, and hopefully the demo track has given you a little bit of an idea of what the pedal is capable of, from low gain all the way up to high gain. And I even pushed the pedal a little bit more, and we'll talk about that in a moment. Okay, so let's just have a listen to my core tone. This is on the bridge hot rail through the California Tweed. Slightly pushed. If I go onto the neck, it's a little bit cleaner. Okay, we've got everything in the middle. Let's kick the pedal in. Just the layout of the pedal, it's really straightforward. We've got a gain control, we've got a volume control, and we've got a treble control. It's a lovely small pedal, doesn't take up too much space on your board. Something to bear in mind with this demo is that, you know, if you're going to make comparisons between this Tumnus and the original Tumnus, every single one of these pedals is going to sound different because of the way that the germanium diodes are constructed. None of them are going to sound the same. So also the amp that you're using, whether you're plugging it into a modeler, whether you're plugging it into a very clean amp or an amp that can be pushed or a high gain amp. So you have to take all of those things into consideration. Even where you have the volume control set, running it into a valve amp, as you push that, it's going to make the amp more distorted, and as you back it off, it's going to sound cleaner. So I've got everything set in the middle to start with. That lovely familiar sound. Let's just drop the treble all the way down. Darkens up, push it all the way up. It's going to get quite bright. Okay, let's have a listen to the gain. Let's see where I've set that back in the middle. Let's turn the gain down. You can see what I mean. I'm even getting drive now if I pull the volume control down. So you're not getting as much drive. If I push the volume control all the way up, it starts to push the amp. The amp can get a little bit flubby when you do that, when you start to drive amps. With the volume control, it starts to bring in a little bit of low end. So if you are doing that, you can sort of, you know, maybe compensate for that on your amp or how you dial in the treble control. So let's just start bringing up the gain. You know, it's a medium gain pedal, but if you push the gain control all the way up, so now you're familiar with the layout of the pedal. Instead of me just sitting here noodling, I just thought I'd run through a selection of the sounds that I use for the opening track. I went from very sort of mild, slightly push tones all the way up to pushing the gain a little bit further. The first sound was the kind of main rhythm sound throughout the track, where I was using the middle and the neck single coil. I've got the gain around about 9 o'clock, and I've pushed the treble slightly. So it's that sort of slightly broken up clean. You know, you still get a little bit of grunt to the sound, but you can hear the definition of the chord voicing. Now on to the next tone. I wanted to show you a tone, a slightly more driven tone using the hot rail. Essentially, it's a humbucker. So I've pushed the gain up a little bit, and I've backed down the treble control, so it's a little bit darker, a little bit thicker. And I played this riff. I double tracked it actually. I was using the hot rail for one pass, and then I did another pass with the neck single coil. So let's have a listen to the riff. First of all, with the bridge hot rail. Here we go. Now let's have a listen to that same tone using the neck single coil. Now let's have a look at the tone that I was using for the main melody. I've pushed up the treble a little bit, increased the gain, and I've also pushed up the volume so that the pedal is hitting the front of the amp a little bit harder. And I'm using the neck single coil pickup. Another tone that I thought was quite interesting, showing off my Alex Lifeson and Ty Tabor influence. Well, I'm wearing a King's X t-shirt today. There's a chord picking section, like a chord arpeggio. I really love that sound in Ty's playing. I was using the bridge hot rail split with the middle single coil, and I backed the gain off the volume controllers in the middle, and I've just pushed up the top end. Wanted that to be quite a bright tone that sort of cut through the mix. Now for the lead tone, and for the lead tone, I wanted to have a little bit more of a higher gain tone out of the pedal. See how far I could push it. So I've cranked the gain all the way up and I've increased the volume ever so slightly just to hit the front of my amp a bit harder. The cool thing about this is it doesn't sound too compressed. Obviously, the more overdrive you get, the more compression, and sometimes it can feel a little bit too spongy. But even with that much gain, it's still definition to your notes. That's a really nice tone. Now, if like me, you like a little bit more gain, it is possible to stack this pedal. And I did think about stacking it when using the single coils to get it quite gainy. I was going to use another pedal in front, but my guitar has a clean boost, which is genius. So when you're on the single coils, if you just need a little bit more help, some people use a clean boost, some people use a treble booster. I have to have a talent booster. Joking aside, you know, for some of the stuff that I do, I like to have a little bit more gain. So I would put some kind of boost in front of that. But obviously with this guitar, I was just able to hit the volume pot and just push a little bit harder. I haven't got the gain control maxed out on this. I've got it set quite low, but it's essentially just like stacking it with a boost pedal. Okay, so there you have it. I hope that that's giving you a little bit of an idea of some of the sounds that you can create with it and the different levels of gain and how the EQ works. I'm never normally that comfortable doing these sort of things, sitting here playing, so I just thought I'd noodle a few ideas from the track, but hopefully the track at the beginning gave you more of an idea of what you can achieve with the pedal. Yes, there was some post-production going on, not really any EQ, you know, apart from the Mesa amp can get a little bit lumpy in the low end, so I was just cutting a bit of low end, but there was some delay, the 2290, and some reverb, using a Lexicon reverb, all within the UAD. And obviously when I'm doing the EBO section, I was using a TC Electronics DVR 250, which is that big kind of spacey reverb, and again, the 2290. But the guitar sound that you're hearing is essentially the guitar into the Tumnus, into the amp, into the cab clone, straight into the UAD. So it's a really musical pedal, and I was able to fulfill my need to re-record one of my old tunes. Now, as I've said, the original Tumnus is probably one of the most popular pedals in the Wampler range, and it's a pedal that I gravitate to a lot. I love the simplicity of it, whether I'm using it as an overdrive or whether I'm backing down the overdrive and pushing the volume to sort of boost an already driven amplifier. Would you need this? Do we need another Klon style pedal? Well, I think if you haven't got a Tumnus or a Klon style pedal and you're in the market for one, then this would be a great investment for you. You know, there's a very limited run of these pedals, so it's going to be quite collectible. For those of us who have already got a Tumnus, when has there ever been a question of do we need more gear? Probably the tone hounds of you out there are going to be wanting to grab this pedal just to complete your collection, just because it has the circuit. I keep thinking to myself, could I hear a difference? I did think about setting the two of them up, but essentially they're doing the same thing. There probably is some differences between them, but then there's going to be differences between another Germanium Tumnus. If I A-B'd that, they're all going to sound slightly different. And at the end of the day, I think it's down to how you play, how you set your amp, what environment you're plugging it into. Right now, I'm gravitating towards this. I don't know whether I'm sort of, being drawn into the whole kind of concept of what is within this pedal, but it's a beautiful pedal. As with any Wampler pedal, it's well made, it looks great, and it sounds great. Anyway, I really hope you enjoyed the performance of one of my old tunes. It was definitely a challenge to put that together, but obviously having the Tumnus, the Germanium Tumnus, really helped me achieve some great tones. That's it from me, and I'll see you very soon. Bye for now.